Yeah, that was an episode of ENN from February 2010.
Jesus.
When Sonic 4 was coming out.
So it's only 5 years and 8 months.
Yeah. I think that's almost 6 years.
Yeah.
It's only four months short of 6 years. It still counts.
I mean, we've been making Sonic jokes for a long time because Sonic games haven't been good for a long time.
Yeah. A lot of people in the chat were like, oh, blurring the logo. And it's like, well, yeah, we don't own that logo. It's the Escapists logo. They're like, sure is WWF up in here. Yeah, I guess so, sure.
No, I'm just not wearing makeup. This is what I actually look like. People are like, oh, Kathleen looks like she's still sick. I'm still a little congested, but I'm better.
I like the, what was it? It was the 4 different drawings. I think I saw it on Reddit or Tumblr or something. And it was like, wearing makeup. It's like, why do you wear all that makeup?
Yeah.
Right, and then wearing natural look makeup. See, look how great you look without makeup.
Yeah.
Actually not wearing makeup. Geez, you look tired. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And then when I shed my skin, and it's like a draconian, like
Yeah.
a snake man.
See.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
See waves.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
All right.
1:15, just like you said.
We'll
All right.
be out in like 2 minutes. Let's quickly figure out who subscribed and say a quick thanks, and then we'll go.
Okie dokie. We'll leave it with Paul. Got there. Notifications. Here we go. Subs today.
Okay.
Taichani.
Taichani.
With a 6-month resub.
Thank you so much.
Razbrill with a 5-month resub. Welcome back. Caught in username Blast.
All right, so that's what happens. So
Yeah.
after the punching and the kicking and the taking down the kaiju.
Ray FK with a 15-month resub. Welcome back. Hail the RNG with a 9-month resub. Mirnus with a 4-month resub. Bronze Finger with a 22-month resub. Indie Star X
Woo!
with a 5-month resub. Crash with a 17-month resub. Kuroji Zero with a 16-month resub. Waking Up on username Planet.
Oh.
So obviously there's some teleportation
So
involved in that blast.
but it could be waking upon username planet.
Why would it be waking upon?
I don't know. That's how I read it.
All right.
Okay, waking up. So that's the conclusion.
Dandon Storm 12 with a 16-month resub, and Nordic Lord with an 8-month resub. So welcome back to all of those people. Something I just saw go by in chat is that Hail the RNG, in lieu of a Kathleen commercial, which is fine because no one's getting a Kathleen commercial today, but in lieu of a Kathleen commercial, Hail the RNG would like congrats on getting married. So congrats on getting married, Hail the RNG.
Good job, dude. Or lady.
Whichever.
Person. Dude, I call everybody dude.
That's true,
Men
actually.
and women.
You do dude that.
I do that. I do
So-
that all the time.
Apologies for the very brief stream. Paul, are you going to stick around and talk about game news, or are you going to go off until...
I'll stick around for
Okay, cool. So we're going to go over there, and Paul's going to be here with you, and thank you so much.
All
and
right.
we'll see you later.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Goodbye.
Hey, everybody!
Sorry, I am also not wearing makeup today. Steve, that's... Yeah. See, that's the smart move, is just make sure the expectations are low already. Wearing the makeup just raises expectations unnecessarily, I think. Stampy104, thank you for subscribing, and the Bat Lord, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for taking your time away from lording over bats to subscribe, the Bat Lord. Mike is too hot. Too hot to handle? Might be better. All right. So, hello everybody. How's it going? today. Unfortunately, Graham and Kathleen had to leave, but I figure we can talk about. Some video game news that we didn't get a chance to talk about on CheckPoint, like we normally do, because that's a good thing to do. So let's just see what we got going on here in terms of video game news. It was actually a pretty good day in terms of, or a pretty good week. It's weird, like we've been doing this basic thing. I mean, you saw that ENN show, and we've been doing this basic thing for, many, many years now. And it's very odd to see the sort of ebb and flow of video game news. Like sometimes it makes sense because they'll be like E3. So like right before E3 there's a lull, and right after E3 there's a lull. But sometimes it's sometimes there'll be just like no particular reason for it. It's just like nothing interesting is happening this week. So yeah. All right. So some of the other stories talked about. Some of the stories that we talked about. The Arkham Knights thing, man, that is sucks to be that. Like they're now not only have they offered refunds saying like, sorry, once again. So it's starting to get to like Final Fantasy XIV territory where they're like, well, again, apologize. So presumably after working on it for 3 months, longer than it took to do the port, longer than it did to do the version for the consoles, and after it was supposedly done, they've released it again, and it still is having a lot of problems. And they've offered refunds to anybody who bought it. They've also said that they will, they're going to be giving people the first Arkham game, so Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham, whatever the other one. They're going to be giving them. They're going to be giving people all the other Arkham games just as kind of incentive. Which a couple of people pointed out is like, if you're the kind of person who's stuck with trying to get Arkham Knight on the PC working, you own all the other Arkham games. That's not that much of an incentive. Arkham Origins, that's it, yeah. So, yeah, pretty disappointing, especially since it's not like Arkham Knights is doing anything spectacular with, the PC stuff. Like, they're using an engine, they're using like a known engine that works on PC. They're using, like, there's no reason why, hundreds of games every year using very similar systems to Arkham Knights are ported over totally fine. Why is it that this particular one messed up? I don't know. But anyway, I understand that if you can get it working, it actually is a really good game. And for console, so just play it on console, I guess. All right. What else we got going on? Why am I looking at the screen? I have it here. The new Five Nights at Freddy's game. I hope it's not a troll. Like, I hope it's not going to be like, oh, that's actually scary. The idea of just like using the characters, the Five Nights at Freddy's characters, ostensibly who are supposed to be these like happy, fun characters that are now like all scary. The idea of using them actually in their original sort of happy, fun incarnation seems like it would be pretty fun. I like that idea. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that I mark stories that both I find interesting and that that I find interesting and that I think will make good stories for CheckPoint. And there's a lot of overlap between those, but sometimes the overlap is not 100%. So like this is a story that we probably wouldn't have actually. We didn't do it on CheckPoint, but I didn't think there was much chance of us doing it on CheckPoint. But I marked it anyway because I thought it was interesting. So, Dota 2, the latest update of Dota 2 has a new experimental feature that, in order to try to, just give you an idea of the kind of level of play that's involved in Dota 2. In this high level, pro gaming league, that if you play any game with VSync turned on, which is vertical sync, what that means is that the computer screen, your computer is, the monitor on the computer is refreshing at, say, 60 frames a second. And the frames are coming from your graphics card at however many frames a second they are at. And when you, if you have VSync turned off, like if you don't have VSync, so most 3D games you'll see will have a setting called VSync. What that means is if you have VSync turned off, your computer, your screen will display those frames as soon as it gets them from the graphics card, which in some cases is like halfway, while your monitor is actually repainting itself, while your monitor is actually changing itself. And so that's why you'll end up with kind of screen tearing and stuff, which can sometimes cause an issue. So that can sometimes be an issue, but on the other hand, you're theoretically getting a better frame rate because the frames are coming as fast as they can. So the solution to that is something called VSync, which basically makes it so that the computer waits for the next time the screen is going to update. So the next 1/60th of a second, in order to grab the next frame from the graphics card, even if the graphic card was ready before that, it'll still wait. So so generally that ends up with a better picture because you're not going to get the screen tearing that you will sometimes with VSync turned off. The disadvantage is that there are certain circumstances where when you have the VSync turned on and your graphics card is not going fast enough or going too fast, there'll be a little bit of it'll have to wait a little bit longer than it would have otherwise to get the next frame. So we're still talking about differences of 1/60th of a second here, or whatever your screen resolution. Sometimes monitors will run better at 60, higher than 60 the refresh rate. But we're still talking about a ridiculously high refresh rate here. So anyway, that's the background info. What Blizzard has done is they're working on a special system for Dota 2 to make it so that it's actually going to they're actually going to try to make the rendering engine behind Dota sync up with the refresh rate of your monitor, so that when it's in that VSync mode, it will always be hitting the frame rates exactly. Not Blizzard, sorry, Valve. I get confused because they make games that are similar. But yeah, so Valve has made this setup, so it's actually changing the rendering pipeline and making it so that the renders come exactly on the frame rates, which apparently results in, it makes it so it doesn't have these little slight glitches. And in a tournament, the level, when the level of play gets high enough, it being off by missing 1/60th of a frame, or 1/60th of missing one frame, can be enough to mess people up, I guess. So anyway, I know that there's the whole 60 frames a second debate about whether people can actually see the difference, and I know that there are situations where you can see the difference. Watching a consistent 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second versus like a consistent 30 frames a second, you can definitely tell the difference. Having a 60 frames a second thing drop a frame every once in a while, if you can see that, that is really impressive. And I don't doubt that people can see it, but I'm impressed. And that's the kind of level these guys are playing at. All right, what do we got here? Sega promises not to suck anymore, which is just can look forward to a greater focus on quality. You know when a CEO or an executive has to like come out and do a press conference being like, we're going to change our focus so that it's more on quality. No more questions. Because it's just like, that obviously brings up the question, your focus wasn't on quality? What was your focus on previously? Okay, so as you know, we have a somewhat fraught history with the Neptunia series here on Loading Ready Live. Now, if you don't know, Neptunia is this. It's a JRPG series where you play as sort of cute girl personifications of various video game consoles, and a lot of the enemies that you're fighting are like the people trying to, like the R4 card, and people trying to steal video games and stuff. Anyway, there's a new one that's coming out. That's come out in Japan, called Uberdimension Blanc plus Neptune Faction versus the Zombie Army, which is one of those great Japanese translated names. But basically, the thing about it is, so as you might, or as is traditional in these things, taking to the next level, apparently the Neptunia crew has to fight off a horde of zombies. But they're fighting off a horde of zombies while, they're making a zombie movie. And while they're making the zombie movie, they're also fighting off a horde of zombies. And so they're making scenes from the movie by recording themselves fighting the zombies in the standard JRPG turn-based battles. It seems very confusing. But apparently it's fun if you like the Neptunia games. Everyone's saying we should do it for watch and play. I don't know, maybe. One of the problems, watch and play usually works with games that are a little faster. The problem with the Neptunia games is they are a lot of the watch part, not so much the play part. And also it would be like you probably wouldn't actually progress that far in the story. But anyway. Nintendo's Miitomo game, which it sounds like it's kind of cool, but for Nintendo's finally moving into mobile, it's a little disappointing. I think we can all agree on that. It sounds like it could be kind of interesting. It sounds like sort of the capability isn't that capability like in Wii U's and 3DS's and stuff already, just as a thing? I'm not entirely sure, but it sounds very similar to just like the standard Nintendo messaging system that the actual consoles have. But anyway. So you may remember a few weeks ago, or probably longer than that now, quite a long time ago, we talked about a game called Journey of the Light, which was in some controversy on Steam because it was in Steam Greenlight, marketed as a game that had, I think, 8 levels. But the first level was so hard that nobody had finished it. Nobody had beaten even the first level. And people started getting a little suspicious that nobody had ever beaten the first level until somebody actually went into the files for the game and decompiled it and realized that there was only one level. That it was being marketed as having 8 levels, but they just made the first level so hard that nobody would ever get past it, which has a certain kind of brilliance to it, but also is terrible. So the developer of Journey of Light, who goes under the name Lord Cress, has added 2 new games to the Steam store. Even though the whole situation with Journey of Light is still unresolved. Like, he's never actually said that he's never actually accounted for being the fact that the rest of the game didn't exist. But despite that, he's put 2 new games on, and everyone is like, Valve, shouldn't you stop this? Because this guy is clearly like a scammer. And so he's put up a game called Turbo Snake and a game called ARR. And so immediately, of course, the comments and the ratings for these games are like complete. Like, he's never going to get this thing greenlit. Like, they're filled with people bad mouthing the thing and all this kind of stuff. So it's I don't see how he's going to get very far. And again, apparently these also they look like more kind of just crappy things, like using like the built-in Unity assets and all this kind of stuff. So basically, yeah, I mean, this is part of the whole, like, Valve has taken a pretty laid back approach to Greenlight, to say the least. Sort of relying more on sort of community moderation and stuff, which I guess they'll do, because people are going to moderate this thing into the ground. So, yeah. Nuka-Cola Quantum. It's pretty sweet. I mean, in the pictures for Nuka-Cola Quantum, obviously it's being like lit from the bottom or something. It would be, I don't know if I would want to drink it, but because it would be awesome if you could actually make it glow. Well, they make like glow stick stuff that's not toxic, right? Have like something in the cap so that like you turn the cap and it breaks the thing, and some glow stick stuff goes into the material. I'm sure that's totally safe. That would be awesome. Okay. So we've played. We've played Mario Maker a lot on the streams here. Different people have played different things, but we've always stayed away from the we haven't done the like ridiculous, quote unquote, impossible levels, because that would just be frustrating, watching us die over and over and over again, and not even like make any kind of progress whatsoever. But there's been this kind of there's a great article on Kotaku that talks about this sort of arms race that's been going on between the various impossible level makers. The most The most famous of which was the Pit of Panga P break, which has been played over by over 1.7 million players, and has been cleared 41 times. So he then considers that to be, but the guy who made that level, Pangaea Panga, considers that to be too much. He was hoping for less than 10 people having beaten it. So he's made a new level that's even harder, to the point where he hasn't, I don't know if he's actually beaten it himself yet. He's been playing it, he's been working on it for most of October. And when I say working on it, I mean he built it at the very beginning of October, and he's been playing it over and over and over again in October, trying to actually beat it. Because you have to beat it once in order to upload it. So, yeah. Apparently, attempts to beat his own level are so taxing, they often leave his hands in pain. This is the level that he built. But there's other ones. So basically, there's a whole bunch of terrible Mario Maker levels, but watching the playthroughs of them is pretty amazing. And yes, all the desert bus stuff. I'm assuming that was somebody doing a test or something. That is not anything to do with the stream that's going on right now, right here. But yes, this is basically, can you build a Mario level that you yourself cannot beat? Which is, of course, true. You can. But anyway, very silly. So this is a fun story. A 13-year-old wanted to get Grand Theft Auto 5, which, if you know anything about Grand Theft Auto 5, is not really made for 13-year-olds. It is what we would call a mature game, rather euphemistically. And so this 13-year-old, living in, being a very resourceful kind of fellow, decided to put together a PowerPoint presentation for his parents, to talk about, to convince his parents that he should be able to get that he should be able to get Grand Theft Auto 5. Basically, it's coming up with all the different solutions, or all the different coming up with the possible objections that his parents would have, and coming up with answers for those. Saying the campaign is just horrible with swearing and killing and sex and whatnot, but I don't want that part of it, and I only want to play the online half when I play with others. You can own cars, shoot guns, play fun maps, make my own maps, and more. That's what I'll do, the safe-ish fun part. So he's going to only play the multiplayer one. Saying swearing and other bad stuff. I have headphones. I can turn them down, no problem. He has bullet points of, I'm gonna save up my money to get it. It's gonna give benefits to me. I can save up for other stuff I want. I can benefit from the fun. Mom can have me stop complaining. It's an important benefit. So basically, he put together this very convincing PowerPoint presentation. His parents were like, yeah, he'd sold us pretty much 3 slides in, but we still kind of wanted to watch. Yeah, so apparently it did convince his parents, which I think that's like one of those things where it's like, look, if you're going to put that much effort into it, clearly, like, one, if you're the kind of kid who's making a PowerPoint presentation to convince his parents, then you're probably not, in what I would consider the danger area in terms of picking up behaviors from Grand Theft Auto 5. And for another thing, it's like just to reward your kid for being so creative. I would definitely do that. Boop, 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 boop. All right, just a couple more here. So this is sort of an interesting technology thing that the guy with the clever handles is, you don't reward bargaining behavior, which is true. Which I from what I understand from child rearing, that's true. But that's like, if the bargaining behavior is like, meh, I want it, meh, then I could understand you definitely don't want to reward that. But I feel like rewarding some, that kind of, rewarding that kind of behavior, this behavior that you sort of want to see, right? Which is, coming up with a creative solution, coming up with really solid, actually, like thinking about the implications, thinking about what your parents' objections would be, coming up with good reasons, that kind of stuff. Like, I think rewarding that is a reasonable thing. I obviously don't have any kids, so I don't know how these things work. But anyway, so another sort of technical thing that's kind of cool, that's that info has come out, is about Halo 5. And Halo 5 is obviously going to be coming out very soon and it's an Xbox One exclusive. And as we've talked about, a couple times, I think, here on CheckPoint, Xbox One is not the most powerful system in the running, right? I mean, the PlayStation 4 generally beats it in power, and of course PCs are going to be in stuff. But Halo, being first party Nintendo or first party Microsoft, is obviously going to be a Xbox One exclusive, and it's got to be really nice looking. And so one of the tricks that they're using, apparently, is, so normally, when you're playing a video game, and as we have all experienced, if you're playing a video game that's too tough, oh, maybe Halo 5 is already out. But as we all know, if you're playing a video game that's too fancy for your computer, your frame rate will go down, right? Not that unexpected, right? You're playing at whatever 60 frames a second, and then you'll get into like a big fight and your frame rate will drop. Totally normal. But 343 Industries was really concerned about making sure Halo 5 played at a locked 60 frames a second. They really wanted it to be 60 frames a second, regardless of what was going on the screen. And so they actually have implemented this system where, instead of when the going gets tough, as it were, when things are getting real scary, instead of the frame rate going down, it stays locked at 60 frames a second, but the actual resolution and special effects will dynamically change depending on the situation, on a frame by frame basis. So, to the console, it will always be at whatever 1080p or whatever, but the actual rendering resolution will change dynamically, both in both the horizontal and vertical thing, as depending on what's going on. And so basically what they're saying is, instead of and so it's doing it seamlessly on a frame by frame basis. So it's not like when you're watching Netflix and it goes like thump 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 down in quality. It's doing it on a frame by frame basis, and it's dynamically doing it, scaling it up, scaling it down. It's not like levels. And apparently nobody notices that it happens. The only reason why they've some people did some like testing on it and really analyzed it frame by frame. So it's a pretty neat idea, and it's something that people are talking about. This might be something that we look into, that becomes more of a thing in future. If you can have rather than like when you go into your game, you have like the quality settings in your game. It's like medium, high, ridiculous. Am I a medium computer? Do I have a high? Do I have a high quality rendering computer? How old is my graphics card? I just got a new graphics card. Does that help? All this stuff that all the settings that you do on your computer, and you're like, oh, this works pretty well, and then you get into a fight and everything goes down. And so they're talking about that maybe in the future, what we'll have, there'll be like an auto mode where you say what frame rate you want to have. Say like, I want minimum 45 frames a second, and then you just go, and the system will automatically be turning on and off effects or scaling things up or down depending on what's necessary, not just when it starts the game, but on a frame-by-frame basis as the game is playing. Sounds like a pretty neat idea. League of Legends. So the North American team, League of Legends team, Team Impulse, is which is quite a high level, or a very high level League of Legends team. Is putting itself up for sale, which is not necessarily that strange. But what's particularly interesting is that it's going up. Because of how the League of Legends Championship system works, they've already qualified for the League of Legends Championship this year, which is like the North American specific League of Legends thing, which will then go into the Worlds. So they've already qualified for it. And so they're putting themselves up for sale. And so whoever buys that team will effectively be also buying a spot in the League of Legends Championship, which is a little weird. In fact, it's something that's been a problem for League of Legends in the past. And so last year they implemented new rules. That's because what happened this was in the 2014 season. They actually had a problem where a team pre-qualified for the League of Legends Championship. I think this was in Europe, and then was bought, and the entire roster of the team changed to 5 different people. But the team had already qualified, and so they were given a place in the championship, which obviously was weird. And I think they ended up being disqualified before the thing started. So the new rule is that at least 3 people of the 5 have to be the same as when they qualified. So only 2 people will be changing, if anybody. But it's still kind of weird in that somebody could just come along and suddenly own a championship team, League of Legends. So the spot is sort of up for rules. So it's a little weird, but it's that's as I was talking about with the Dota 2 thing. It's when now that gaming has become a real pro thing, some of these and there's real money on the line, and there's real careers that they're gonna have to start looking at some of these things a lot more closely. And finally, Rocket League of Legends. It's a legendary game because it's a fun game. Anyway, Rocket League is going to be releasing a new update that adds what they're calling mutations, which adds basically a whole bunch of like new game modes, new random stuff. So stuff like a cubic ball, which sounds awesome. Moon ball, which presumably the ball flies really slowly. Super ball bounciness, bigger ball sizes, different balls, different weight, different boosts, different gravity, match lengths. But most importantly, hockey mode, where the entire Rocket League arena is turned into ice, and the ball is turned into a puck. So clearly, trying to appeal to the most important demographic, which is of course the Canadian demographic. I'm very excited about. I really want to see some. I don't know if I personally want to play that, considering how much trouble I have controlling the car in Rocket League anyway. But that seems like it would be a lot of fun to see. Yeah, the Canada. I don't know. I hope it's just called Canada mode, but hockey mode in Hockey Night in Rocket League. So anyway, that stuff is all pretty awesome, and some interesting stories there. Thank you all for hanging out. Sorry again that Graham and Kathleen aren't around. But we shall see. Now, it is just about 2 o'clock now, and it's so I'm gonna be going offline, and I'll be going offline, and then I'll be coming back at 3 for my normal things on my stream. Where today we're gonna be finishing Brutal Legend. Unfortunately. For those of you who saw the stream last time, it has been living up to the title of the legend, and it has been rather brutal so far. Or the last couple. I think I only have like 1 or 2 things to do still, but it's been pretty. Or I got my ass handed to me last session, so I'm gonna try it again this time. I think I've got a good strat for how I'm going to do it, and hopefully, if I beat it, then we've got something else fun to play. Or, if I beat it, we have something else fun to play. Hopefully, I'll get there. I guess I know that we have something else fun to play because I know what it is. And Kuridan, thank you for subscribing, Kuridan, or possibly just Kurdan. Dan's sick, you should cure him. But with a K. Because this is the Mortal Kombat universe we're in now. Cure Dan! Curality. Which is... That's just... curing somebody. Somehow they die from it too. I don't know. Anyway. Kuridan. Kuridan. That's probably better. Not Kurdan. Just pretend like I'm like the teacher reading out roll call on the first day of school, and you all have hard to pronounce names. Kuridan? Anyway, however you pronounce it, which I think we can agree you are probably correct and I am incorrect. However you pronounce it, Kuridan, thank you very much for subscribing for 8 months in a row. And I will be going offline now, but I'll be back in about an hour. I have the weird experience of throwing to myself. But gonna go offline, grab some lunch, get things sorted out, and then I'll be back in just over an hour. Yes. All right. Bye.